Welcome to Uping Stock Trend Prediction channel. So in this video, I'll talk about the Tesla stock price analysis and the prediction for the next week, for the coming week of September 19th to September 23rd. So today is September 17th. So before that, I will also explain the why I use different color or the same color for the trend lines. Because there's one comment I received about using the same color for the trend lines. So I will also very quickly review the prediction in the last video number 99. So if you like this kind of videos, you are welcome to subscribe Uping Stock Trend Prediction channel or watch more video in YouTube. So let's go to Tesla stock charts. So this is a Tesla weekly chart, and this is a Tesla daily chart, and this kind of trend lines are the predicted model, the predicted trend line, the high, weekly high or weekly low, or even for daily high or daily low, representing the different type of resistance and the support based on the Uping stock trend prediction model. And this kind of a vertical line or vertical bars are the actual fluctuation of the stock price. So you see, previously I also thought about using the candlestick. So for example, if I change the chart style to candlestick to represent the actual fluctuation of the stock price, so it looks like in this way. So for example, for candlestick, that means if this is a green bar, that means the closing is higher than the opening. So this corner is the opening and this corner is the closing, and this is the high and this is the low, and the low of this week. So and if this is red bar, red color, that means the closing is lower than the opening. So it looks like in decreasing trend in this range. So it's in red color, so that means this is the opening and this is the closing, and this is the high and the low. So thickness, the width is a little bit wide, so for some cases it's not easy to exactly identify when it will touch this trend lines or reaches this trend lines. So for if it is weak, then this kind of a weakened data touches this trend line, so you can see that. But if this is in this square section, and then it's not very easily to check if it exactly touches this trend lines. So I typically prefer to use just a bar chart, OHLC bar, so that this line is actual fluctuation of the stock price, and the left tick is the opening price, and the right tick is basically the closing price, and this is a high and this is a low. So you can see when it touches this trend lines, it exactly changes the direction. So it's very easy to see when it is touching the trend line. And for example, if this is a daily chart, if you change this to the candlestick, it also looks like in this way. So if you check the historic data, so you can also see this kind of a trend lines includes this kind of a fluctuation of the Tesla stock price. And this model can also be applicable to any kind of stocks. So it can be used to analyze and predict the fluctuation of any stock. So if I change it back to this OHLC bar, so it looks like in this way. And this kind of trend lines for different levels represent the resistance and the support. And generally for this top three lines, I previously used a yellow color, and right now I changed the top, basically that's the high 3. I called it, this is high 1, high 2, high 3 line. I changed this high 3 line to this magenta color, and so it represents a kind of extreme. The top trend line maximum price that it could be reached is at that kind of a time frame, so it's a type of extreme. So if the stock price reaches up to this trend line, it typically will immediately drop. So it's a kind of goes to the extreme case. So typically it will not reaches the top trend line, but in case if it reaches the top trend line, it will immediately drop, or almost in a very short time, and it will started to drop. So you see for this point, when it reaches this top trend lines, so it almost immediately or dropped in a few minutes. So I use this kind of a magenta different color to give a kind of a precaution. So change this color for this trend line, but I still keep the yellow color for these two trend lines, because the high one trend line could be a good resistance when the stock price increases to reaches this trend lines, but it may also have a possibility that it break through this trend line. So if it break through this trend line, that means it still have a very strong increasing momentum, and then when it break through this trend line, and then it has a very good increasing momentum, and then it could increase to the high 2 trend line. If it still have a very good momentum, it may even goes up to the top, the high 3 trend line. So this yellow trend line, the yellow color, it doesn't necessarily means it is absolute resistance. So that means when it goes to this region, it still have a good increasing momentum, and at this time it's always just trying to push up, and you can see a strong upward moving momentum, and also the stock price is not very easily to drop. So it tries to struggle at this time and fight for the decreasing momentum. So when it break through this yellow trend line, it have a very good possibilities to still go up to this top trend line. So if I changed it into a different color, like red or a different color, so it may give somebody a unconsciously warning or something, like it may drop, but sometimes during this kind of range, it is still the increasing momentum is still very strong. So I'd like to maybe still keep this 2 trend lines using the yellow color, use the same color, because I just don't want to give a misleading unconsciously warning or something like about you can't hold it, or you need to sell it immediately, those type of warning message. So I keep these 2 trend lines, still keep it as a yellow trend line, and then for this 3 trend line, that typically represents the low price region, but once when the stock price dropped down to this top, the blue trend line, that's basically the low 1 trend line. I call it this is a low 1, and this is a low 2, and this is a low 3 trend line. So when it dropped down to this low 1 trend line, sometimes it may be a good support, and then it can hold that stock price, and the stock price may started to increase. For example, when it touches this blue trend line, it started to increase the stock price. When it touches this point, you see almost touches this trend lines, and it started to increase the stock price again. But sometimes for these trend lines may not exactly hold the stock price, and if it dropped and break this trend line, and then it will have a stronger decreasing momentum, and it could very likely to drop down to this low 2 trend line. So low 2 trend line. So that means this low 1 trend line is not the absolute support. So it still have a possibility that it may still drop down to this bottom trend line. So I still use the same color to represent these two trend lines. If it break this trend line, and then it has a tendency to drop down to this bottom trend line. So this bottom trend line, that's a low 3 trend line. So typically represents the extreme condition. So for the low price, so typically if it touches this trend line, it's almost reaches to a very good support, and it's also a very good time to buy. And you see for this point, when it reaches this trend lines, and the stock price changes the direction and started to increase. And for some extreme condition, it may break this trend line, but you see for this one, at that day, this is a daily chart. For that day, when it drops to below this trend line, it didn't drop too far away from this green trend line, and it closed here. And the next day, when it opened here, and you see that's the next day, when it opened here, it's almost at the same price as this closing price for the previous day, but you see actually it is increased to 2 trend lines above this closing price. So it increased by 2 bands. You see, this is one band and this is another band, enclosed by 2 adjacent trend lines. So even though this is the last Friday, last Thursday, and this is last Wednesday. So even though the last Wednesday, the stock price opened here almost at the same price as the closing price on last Tuesday, but it increased by 2 bands, and then this trend lines is dipped almost here, and it reaches to this point. Is a very good support. And so you see when it drops a little bit, and then it started to increase the stock price. So that means I changed this color. I changed this color of this trend lines to this green color, but it keeps the 2 colors of these 2 trend lines are the same. So that's just my purpose for doing that. And so and the last video, in video number 99, I uploaded to YouTube on September 11th. I predicted the weekly fluctuation range for the last week. That's basically happened after video number 99. I predicted in video number 99 that the weekly low is about 288. Is 288 is likely to hold that price to be a good support, and the weekly high, I mentioned the weekly high is 309, and the best scenario it may goes to $323. So the actual fluctuation range of the last week the weekly fluctuation range is happened exactly between these 2 trend lines. Exactly happened at consistent with what I predicted in video number 99. The actual weekly low is 290.35. 290.5. So it's about $1.7 difference, different from what I predicted in video number 99. And this weekly high is $309. $309 is exactly what I predicted in video number 99. So in video number 99, these 2 trend lines and these points are already generated before this week's data was received. So that's really the actual prediction, and it's consistent with the actual fluctuation, consistent very well. So many people will be interested in what will happen for the next week, for the coming week. September 19th to September 23rd. So today is September 17th, Saturday. So next week, the weekly fluctuation is expected to be at least between this range. So between the $294 and the $314. $294 and $314. So that's a typical fluctuation range of the next week. So for the worst scenario, when it drops down to this $294, if this support can't be supported, can't hold the stock price, it may have a chance to drop even down to this $284. So that's a worst scenario for the coming week. So for the for the high, the weekly high, when it increases to this $314, so if it has a very good increasing momentum, if it has a very strong increasing momentum, it may break this point $314 and may shoot it up. The target price may be $324, but it could be have a much higher risks to reach this $324. So the best scenario is $324, but that probability is lower, much lower. So the typical fluctuation range is at least between this range. And for the early week, for example, next Monday. So next Monday, the fluctuation range is at least around this $300 and $308. So last Friday, it was closed around here, above this the low one trend line, above this trend line, as has a little bit more increasing momentum at the late day, closed at here. So the next Monday, it has a possibility to have a little bit high possibility to open high, and open high either a little bit higher than this, or may open the high around $308. So if it opened or should increase up to $308, it will have some kind of a very high possibility to start to drop. So when it drops down to $300, or if this can't hold the stock price, may have a possibility, a little bit lower possibility to reach down to $296. But when it dropped down to this range, this point, or at least this $296, it could be still temporarily be a good buying point to so the stock price is still expected to increase and trying to push up to this yellow trend line again. So if in case if it has a very good increasing momentum, and it may break this 308, but at least when it reaches to this $312, then definitely it will have a very high risk to drop the stock price. So basically it's the fluctuate range is about in this range, or have a little bit higher to reach the next trend line. So if you are interested in this kind of analysis and prediction, you are welcome to subscribe Uping Stock Trend Prediction channel, or watch more video in YouTube. Have a nice day.